Hello folks, and welcome back to one of my videos. And in this one, we're going to do the NFC Championship. We're going to compare the Vikings and the Eagles, which I think it will be a very interesting matchup. Because any one of these two teams, if they go to the Super Bowl, there's no doubt in my mind can actually win. And this is all depends on New England or Jacksonville. I think either one of these teams could be both New England or Jacksonville, potentially. I'm not going to lie. Both Vikings and Philadelphia are both the strongest two teams in the NFL season. Yeah, everybody know about New England, but these two teams are scary. And see, what makes Philadelphia scary is the simple fact, even without Carson Wentz, they're still able to win games. Like, even though I don't trust Nick Foles entirely, he's not Carson Wentz. I'm gonna give him his credit. It's just that he has a defense to back him up. Jay Ajayi is one of the best running backs in this league. But don't take nothing away from Minnesota at all, who's pretty much a rounded team. Minnesota, like offense and defensively, is basically solid on both ends of the field. So basically, we're gonna go into these comparisons. Now, first off, like I said, this is a brand new matchup, so both these teams don't even know each other. So this, like I said, this is gonna be a very interesting matchup. For the Vikings, Chase Keenum, okay, his completion with 325 completion, ATT is 481. 3,547 yards for 22 touchdowns. Let's look at Wentz. 265, 440. He has 3,296 yards. Okay, 33 touchdowns. But see, the problem is Carson Wentz is not playing. Nick Foles is. And see, Carson Wentz basically played the majority of the season. Everybody knows that. And see, the problem with Nick Foles, he's only played in about 5 to 6 games just this season alone. So we really don't know what type of Nick Foles we're going to get for tomorrow or this Sunday when that game starts. See, that's the problem right there. If this was Carson Wentz, that's no doubt in my mind, the Eagles would beat the Vikings. Because like I told you, man, it's hard to trust Nick Foles in this type of game right now. Yeah, he beat Atlanta, but he barely put up 15 points. He barely beat Atlanta. The reason why Atlanta didn't win that game is because Matt Ryan, like he always does in these playoff games and these, these games that has everything on the line, is that he chokes. See, the problem with Matt Ryan is that he keeps the defense on the field longer than it should be. See, when your offense is not converting on third down, and if your offense is not basically, because first, if you get a first down, that keeps the defense on the bench longer. It keeps your defense off the field. The longer your defense can rest, the better your team is going to be, basically longevity wise, because your team won't get so much fatigue. But when the offense can't score no touchdown, the offense can't basically keep their drive alive and can't keep time of possession going, your defense is going to get tired. So basically, Atlanta's defense got worn out, just like they did last year. And so Philadelphia took advantage of that. The Philadelphia Eagles defense was able to force Matt Ryan to go 3 and outs. I don't see that with Chase Keenum, but let's continue. Latavius Murray, 216, 842 yards, 3.3 average, but 8 touchdowns. LeGarrette Blount. Okay, 173 carries for 766 yards, not bad. 4.4 for 2 touchdowns. So you see, LeGarrette Blount doesn't really see the field that much. He just takes the pressure off of Ajayi. As for Ajayi, he has 70 carries, 408 yards, 5.8 carries with 1 touchdown. So obviously those two share the ball a lot. Okay, the Eagles are going to have a lot of rotation between Blount and Ajayi. Blount, he gets puts in third down situation where Ajayi, you'll see him basically first through 3. Like the first 3 downs is Jay Ajayi. But see, Jay Ajayi also does receiving yards. So you won't always see Jay Ajayi on the backfield like that. You'll see him receiving the ball according to the playbook. Now let's look at Jerick McKinnon. Now Jerick McKinnon is actually amazing. Okay, he's not that bad at all. 150 yards for 150 carries, 507 yards, 3.8 with 3 touchdowns. Again, Minnesota, like Philadelphia, has a solid running game. Both of the Vikings running backs have been beasting this season. McKinnon especially. If you have McKinnon on your fantasy league, he's gave you at least about 10 to 15 points. If not 12, 8 or 9 to 10 points. Now let's look at the receiving yards. Now this is when it's going to get very interesting. Thielen, 91 receptions for 1,276 yards, a career high for him. 14 average and 14 yards for 4 touchdowns. Zach Ertz, you gotta watch Zach Ertz. He's a Pro Bowl tight end. Receptions, 74 yards, 824 yards, 11.1 for 8 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs. You know what I'm saying? 64 receiving, 849 yards. 13.3 he's averaging for 8 touchdowns. Diggs is a key player. This is the reason why Vikings were able to win their games, and the reason why the Vikings were able to get themselves out of trouble because Diggs. Diggs was the one that saved Minnesota last week against New Orleans. I told y'all in my other videos, Stephon Diggs is extremely fast. This guy is a difference maker for you. Yeah, even though Thielen has 1,270 yards, it's because of Diggs keeps the pressure off Thielen. Diggs is basically like the decoy. Most defenses can't account for Adam Thielen because they so busy focused on Stephon Diggs. So it's Kyle Rudolph. I'm gonna get to him in a second. Now Alshon Jeffrey, ex-Chicago Bear, 57 reception yards for 789 yards, 13.8 averaging in for 9 touchdowns. This was a key free agent that the Eagles picked up, was Alshon Jeffrey. He's helped him out a whole lot. Now the Vikings, Kyle Rudolph, like Zach Ertz, he's a Pro Bowl tight end. He's a veteran, but he knows how to get the job done. 57 reception yards, 532 yards for 9.3 averaging 8 touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar, 62 reception yards, 768 for 12.4, 8 touchdowns. Again, not bad at all. Okay, Eagles got a solid offense like this Vikings do. Jared McKinnon, 51 completions for 421 yards, 8.3 for 2 touchdowns. Torrey Smith, another veteran. Okay, Torrey Smith was on that Baltimore Ravens team the year they won a Super Bowl back in 2013. Okay, he's a veteran. He's been in these playoffs. He knows how to get the job done as well. I'm not necessarily saying that he's scary because the defense ain't too much worry about Torrey Smith, but 36 reception yards for 430 yards, averaging 11.9 for 2 touchdowns. It's not bad. So each one of these guys see the field. They get touches often, but like I said, Nick Foles is not Carson Wentz at the end of the day neither. Now we're going to get down to the comparisons. Now we're going to get down to the full matchup as we go down. Let's look at the offense. Because like I said, the offense, I don't know my mind. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Even though defense is going to play a huge factor, these offenses can put points on the board. So let's look at the comparison right now. So for the Vikings, they have 356.9 to Eagles 365.8. Again, this is pretty close. That's total yards per game. Let's look at the passing yards, okay? 234.6 for 233. Close. Okay, this game, like I said, both quarterbacks are going to be getting open. This is going to come down to the quarterbacks, okay? Out of Chase Kim and Nick Foles, who's going to make the better plays? Who's going to be able to keep their team on the field? Who's going to be able to convert on third down is going to be the key. Now you got the rushing yards. 122.3 for the Eagles, 132.2. I say the Eagles slightly have a better running game only because of Jay Ajayi. Jay Ajayi made a whole lot of a difference for the Eagles. Now we're going to look at the points per game. 23.9 compared to 28.6. Again, not all too far off. Okay, like I said, the defense is going to play a factor. The Eagles are not so much beating Minnesota all that much in the points per game. They slightly better, but not too far off. Third down conversion. This third down conversion is going to be very important. Now, see, according to Future Sports, I see what he's saying. Like a lot of these spreads, like Vegas go be covering. But see, Vegas is favoring these games according to these third down conversions. See, this is what Vegas is looking at. What I'm showing you right now is how Vegas is going to basically predict the point spread right now. Because all Vegas is going to do is prediction. That's all they're going to do. But this is basically what the point spread is going to be. They can look at third down conversion. Look at this. 43.5 for 41.7. So both teams can convert on third down. So like I said, this is going to be a very close game. The point spread is going to be, once again, it might be 3. But I said, I'm not saying that's going to influence the game because, again, I told you, these teams still got to win the game. But this is how Vegas is looking at right now. Okay? And look at the time of possession right now. Look how close these two teams are. Look, the Eagles got 1961, but then Minnesota has 1946. So Eagles got slightly better time possession, but if Vikings defense brings it, that's not going to really matter. So like I said, even though the Vegas going to make a point spread, it's still not going to matter. Both teams going to have to find a way to win this game. That's just the bottom line of it. Now let's look at the defense comparison as we go down further. Now this is what's going to really decide this game. Okay, defense. Okay, total yards per game allowed. Okay, Minnesota only gives up 275. Eagles give up 306. So I want y'all to pay attention to that right now. Okay, since Nick Foles has been playing, the Eagles have been giving up 306.5 to where the Vikings only give up 275. I told you Nick Foles is the difference in this game. This is not Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz don't allow his defense to give up this much points because he knows how to keep them off the field. Passing yards per game allowed. Vikings only give up 192 to the Eagles 227.3. So as you see, the Eagles are flawed. Okay, as good as those safeties are, they do give up passing yards. Okay, so this is the one thing where the Vikings are gonna have to expose if they're gonna win this game. The rush yards allowed. Okay, so this is where the Eagles have the Vikings. 83.6 is what the Vikings give up, but Eagles only give up 70.2. So again, the Vikings might have a problem with J.R. and LeGarrette Blount if they can't get the linebackers together. So this is where this is the only thing where the Eagles will have this game, and the Eagles going to be pounding the ball. They're going to be running it. Points per game. Vikings only give up 15.8. Eagles give it up 18.4. I told y'all, man, against the Atlanta Falcons, the Eagles went back and forth with that team. The Eagles are not going to afford to be going back and forth with the Vikings. If the Eagles go back and forth with the Vikings, and the Vikings allow to make the Eagles play the way they want them to play, the Eagles going to have problems. Vikings are not a team you want to keep going back and forth. You can't, when you score a touchdown, you can't allow the Vikings to also put another touchdown on that board. Because remember, the Saints barely have to come back. They have to make an effort to come back in that second half. Third down conversions allowed. See, this is where the Vikings have the Eagles. This is why I'm taking the Vikings right now. Look at that. On third downs, the Vikings only give up 25.2, whereas the Eagles give up 32.2. I told you, man. Then this is important right now. This is why I have the Eagles. I told you it's gonna come down to which team can convert on third down, which team can keep the defense off the field. To me, I think the Vikings have a stronger chance of giving the offense have a stronger chance of giving the Vikings a better chance to close out the game defensively. I told you, man, Nick Foles is not the brightest quarterback out there. And this is why I'm taking the Vikings in this game. Now, the Vikings are basically going to be throwing the kitchen sink, the refrigerator, a left hook, a right jab, and an uppercut just to win this game. Vikings are going to be giving everything they have. I told y'all, the Vikings have more to gain to this than the Eagles. And I say this for one reason and one reason only, because the Vikings have a chance to do what most NFL teams have not done in NFL history. They have the chance to be known as the only team that basically went into a Super Bowl, basically where their city is hosting a Super Bowl. This year, the Super Bowl will be in Minnesota next month on February the 4th. The Vikings have a chance to beat this Eagle team and go into the Super Bowl in Minnesota on February 4th and host the Super Bowl in their house. See, it doesn't matter if New England even goes. See, if the Vikings get to the championship, New England does. New England's not beating Minnesota in their house. I'm only taking the Jacksonville Jaguars because I believe Tom Brady is just getting old. This is it for Tom Brady. He's going to get the throne. I told y'all, it's a new generation. It's a new era. A lot of these teams are young. Okay, they're young. They got a lot of youth. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, they got a lot of endurance. Tom Brady is 40 years old. He can't keep doing it no more. And see, this is why Belichick and Robert Kraft got into it earlier in the season, because Bill Belichick didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo to go. This is why Jimmy G was so important, because Jimmy G was supposed to be Tom Brady's successor originally. See, I would have thought Tom Brady would have retired last year after coming back from being down 28 points officially, going into overtime and winning that game. I thought that would have been it. He won 5 rings. Still, Tom Brady was just too greedy. That's not enough for him. He wants to get 6 and 7. I believe Tom Brady's greed is what's going to lead to his downfall in this AFC Championship game. And if he gets past the AFC Championship game, he's going to lose a Super Bowl. Tom Brady's greed is what's going to cause him to fail. The man should have retired last year when he had the chance, because nobody else done that before in the Super Bowl. Nobody else has came back from down 28 and then you win that game. Nobody else did what he was able to do. But I think his time is just up. I told y'all, a lot of these older players, like I said, and even Drew Brees, Big Ben, Carson Palmer, Phillip Rivers, a lot of these guys have to go. Tony Romo already bowed out last year. Why? Because he can't play no more. But to me, man, even though the Vikings defense, Eagles, I ain't gonna lie though, they're gonna try to keep it close. But to me, I don't think Nick Foles. I think Chase Keenum is just a sharper quarterback. Because remember now, Chase Keenum has had more playing time than Nick Foles. And what's funny that Chase Keenum is also a backup, but Sam Bradford got hurt earlier in the season. I think Sam Bradford got hurt maybe week 4. Chase Keenum has played the majority of the season. Nick Foles didn't come into week 11 or 10 that Nick Foles came in. Nick Foles came in late in the season, while Chase Keenum has had more time with his team to really develop the offense, to really develop the receivers, and really establish a good running game. Chase Keenum has learned Mike Zimmer's playbook a little bit more. Nick Foles is only getting his opportunity to shine and pick up where he left off last. Because remember, Nick Foles did suffer a loss to the playoffs back in 2013. But again, man, like I said, I don't trust Nick Foles. I think Keenum is better because to me, only a skilled quarterback was able to make that last catch, last week. That 61-yarder, only a skilled quarterback was able to do that. Chase Keenum will show that he was able to handle himself in the pressure. He basically saw an open look and he took it. He saw that Stephon Diggs had really only one safety covering him, because the cornerback had to guard the number 2 receiver. Stephon Diggs was the number 1, but the cornerback on that cover 2 had to guard the number 2. He was coming in the flats. On cover 2, you're set to guard the flats. I told you, man, that safety just made a stupid play, and like I said, he messed up. He effed up big time. And yeah, and of course, man, the spreads go be high. A lot of people are going to put a lot of money on these Eagles or the Vikings, but this is where you got to avoid the trap at. And I'm gonna show you how to avoid the trap in my next video. In my next video, you know what I'm saying? After this is over, I'm gonna show you probability versus cause. But I'm taking Vikings in this game. I think Vikings they're gonna rewrite history. And plus, Vikings, like the Eagles, they have never won a Super Bowl. The Vikings have been disappointed many times. I'm gonna give you a little history lesson on the Vikings. The Vikings have been competing in Super Bowls since the 1970s. Way back, I think either 71, 72, way back in the 1970s, or it might have been the 60s. I mean, they played against teams like the Chiefs. In the 1980s, they played against the Raiders and lost. If I'm not mistaken, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. This is how far back I'm going. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the Vikings have competed in Super Bowls. They've actually won NFC championships. They just could never win. And this is from the 60s and 70s. I think they might have been in 1 in the 60s, 2 in the 70s. I think 1 in the 80s. But in the 80s, I think they lost to the Raiders. Yeah, they lost to, I think, John Madden's Raiders. Or it might have been another team, but they've lost numerous times. Then we go back to 1999. Okay, we go back to then. I think Chad Green was the head coach. You had Randy Moss, who to me was one of the most fastest, unstoppable receivers at the time. Like back then, Randy Moss was Julio Jones and Antonio Brown. You see a lot of Julio Jones and Antonio Brown, they inspired from Randy Moss. He was basically the Antonio Brown of the league back there. But Randy Moss was on a whole nother level. You had him, you had Chris Carter. You had Justin Randall on the defensive line. You had Rod Smith. I think you had Randall Cunningham. Not Randall Cunningham. You had not Cunningham. You had another quarterback. I can't think of his name right now. He was pretty decent. He was good. But yeah, the Vikings had a solid team. Yeah, Dante Culpepper. There you go. Yeah, Dante Culpepper as a star quarterback. That Vikings team was amazing back then. But they just did not beat the Atlanta Falcons team because they didn't make the right decision making at all. You know, Coach Green, he didn't make the right decisions, all trying to win the game. You know, the Dirty Birds just came through. That was a team led by Jamal Anderson. Okay, y'all remember that, Chris Chandler. That Atlanta Falcon team upset the Vikings. To me, the Vikings, that was a Super Bowl team, but they just didn't have what it took. They didn't have what it takes to beat that Falcon team. That was back in 99, the 98-99 season. The Vikings had that opportunity. Then going back to the Adrian Peterson days. AP, as good as Peterson was, he couldn't carry this team by himself. And he's had Brett Favre as his quarterback. He's had Gus Frerotte. He's had Darren Sharper. He's had Peerless. He's had the Florida quarterback, the Florida receiver. He's had that guy that helped Tebow win a championship. So he's had a great team. He's had like I said, he's had Kyle Rudolph back in those days. Like he had a good defensive line. Like the Vikings weren't a bad team. They had errors. I mean, the Vikings was in 2 NFC championships back in 2008. If I'm not mistaken, it was 2008, 2009. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you had back in those days, now, because they had a good defensive line. They was decent all around. They just could never get the job done. And excuse me if I can't remember names, but that's how far back I'm going. Like I said, even the Adrian Peterson days. Even AP even led them in 2012. League MVP still could get the job done at all. So the Vikings been around the game a long time. And the only time the Eagles had opportunities, I think in 1981, the 1980, I think the 81-82 season, the Eagles lost to the Raiders. That's when they got to the Super Bowl and lost. Then in 2004, 2005, you know what I'm saying? I think it was 2003, 2004, or 04 or 05, they lost to the Eagles lost to the Patriots. Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens. Y'all remember that Eagle team with Brian Westbrook. Okay, that was Spygate. The Patriots cheated to get there, but still, Eagles had a defense. They had Troy Vincent over there. I'm gonna say they had Troy Vincent and Brian Dawkins. Still, they couldn't beat that Patriots team. That was Tom Brady in his prime. And that was when they beat a Michael Vick-led Falcons team. That was it. And this when Michael Vick was in his glory days. So that's how far back I've been watching football for a very long time. But still, both of these teams need that. But I gotta go with Vikings. They have the chance to play in your home field, and the Vikings prove they can win in that field under pressure anyway. I gotta go with Vikings. I know Future Sports has made his prediction. Everybody's made their prediction. You know, Caper SFY, shouts out to him. If he gets it right, he gets it right. But I'm making my prediction now. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. Y'all stay blessed, stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.